Hello and welcome to another edition of RSF Radio. I'm your host Joe Monday, and I have a very special guest today. The comb over of man, perfect. Words of slur. The co-owner of Adapt Gaming and from Nashville, Tennessee, Aaron Lanton. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, man. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to, be here talking with you, period, just, about the FGC and what we're planning to do with Adapt.
Yeah, you've kind of got a lot of cool things on the horizon here that I think would be very useful tools for the community in general, especially since we're kind of going online for the most part now. And more people seem to be coming up to speed with tech stuff, whereas they hadn't used to been for the last decade or so. Yep. But regardless, though, before we really dig into that too much, at the start of the show, I always give new guests an opportunity to pitch whatever they have going on, any projects you're working on, any socials you want to send people to at the start of the show so that people can't avoid it at the end of the show. So what do you got going on?
Well, if you want to just follow me and what I'm doing, you can find my Twitter at ALanton11. So that's ALanton11. So that's my Twitter. I don't stream a whole lot on Twitch, but if you want to check that out, where I play a lot of Samurai Showdown right now and dabbling in all kind of action adventure games since I just got PS Now, you can go to Hands and Face. So HANDS, the letter N, FACE. And of course, definitely want to make sure you guys check out adapt.gg. Currently, the URL does not have anything there for you to look at, but we're putting everything together where you'll be able to download the mobile app and, of course, organize everything for tournaments on that website. Also, if you have any direct questions about Adapt once we get through chatting, feel free to hit me up at aaron@adapt.gg.
Awesome.
And one other thing just came to mind, the podcast that I do separately from what I do regarding FGC, it's called Low Key Podcast, where two friends of mine, Tim Malloy, who is a really, really exceptional journalist, owner of moviemaker.com, and an amateur filmmaker named Keith Denny, very talented dude. We talk about all sorts of films. We recently did The Platform, Uncorked on Netflix, and actually one of our upcoming episodes will be talking directly with the director of Uncorked, who's going to lay out how he came onto the project and how the film came about a sommelier in Memphis, Tennessee. It's a really cool story.
I think I have watched that movie. How old is that?
At this point, maybe 6 weeks. It's on Netflix exclusively. Right
now. Okay. I'm thinking about a different one. A different movie about a different sommelier. No, I've heard that The Platform is an interesting concept. I don't know if they deliver entirely, but on a lot of things. But
100% agree there. It is not a direct correlation to capitalism, in my opinion. And Tim in particular went really hard at the film. I do think it does some things well, but there's some things you can get from it, but definitely not some exact critique of how capitalism functions.
Yeah, there's something about movies that have like a small stage that I like. Like, have you ever seen like The Cube, where it's like technically like all filmed in like one room, or even like movies like The Descent, where it might look like there's a lot of stages, but it's only like one very small stay in like very few props that they filmed on that make it really interesting. By the way, welcome to the movie podcast where we're not talking about movies.
Well, my wife is actually, she's a thespian herself. She used to do costume design in New York City. I stayed there for quite a while. I mean, we can jump into my background, a little bit later. But so yeah, I mean, that sounds super interesting. The Descent I'm familiar with, not The Cube though. So I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's like a schlocky horror movie. It's like people in a cube. Each cube room has like kill contraptions in it. Kind of. It's
so a different version of Saw.
No, kind of, but no. It's lower budget. Think lower budget than that.
All right, I'm jotting it down for a view later. I'm gonna look it up and get back to you.
No, it's schlocky horror, which I happen to be a big fan of schlocky horror movies because there's fun things that can be done in those where like good stories can be told that they often get overlooked a lot of the time. For like their storytelling value for being horror movies, which like I get it, but like I don't know. Anyway,
so have you seen look, not to keep going on movies for a minute, but have you seen, what's that story that just came out? It's a film. It was in theaters until COVID happened, but it was about the invisible person. What was that movie called?
The Invisible Man.
It was literally an invisible man.
Invisible. Something about invisible person. Have
you seen that one yet?
I have not yet. I'm familiar with like the original Invisible Man, which is like it's like a goofy, fun like monster movie. But what I did hear about the Invisible Man, it being like a super low budget, has been doing like gangbusters in terms of on returns because it was only like I want to say. They spent $10 million on it, which like is not a whole lot of money in terms of movies and budgeting for like advertisements and stuff like that.
Yep.
But like I heard that they made a lot from it, which is like kind of cool.
is a great studio. And
my gosh, they take a lot of good, like you were saying, Blumhouse does take a lot of good chances on horror movies, which is like kind of their thing now.
Yeah, I mean they're really good, and of course they even gave us stuff like Get Out, which is not the kind of movie you would expect. I'm very impressed with them. I could bore you to death with movie talk all day, but I'm scared we'll only be doing that if we keep going down that road.
Yeah, honestly,
you can tell us all about your horror stuff.
Yeah, no, we totally could. It's just one of those things because it's like being unemployed currently, not having a lot of things to do. I'm digging into like the movie side of things because like. I have time now to do that and catch up on a bunch of movies that I haven't seen while I'm like working and stuff. I'll have something on in the background, or like I'll like when I want to like really pay attention, like something like I watched The Lighthouse recently, which is now streaming on Amazon.
Is that good?
It's on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime Video, you can just watch it.
What?
It is capturing. It's like extremely well shot. Incredible performances all the way around. It's a quality film, especially during these times of if you might be quarantined with like roommates, for example, a roommate that you may or may not enjoy the presence of. It might hit a little too close to home, actually. If that is
like a toddler, because that's what I got going right now.
If the toddler farts a lot, maybe.
Yeah, he does actually. I think it's hilarious.
Word.
Yeah.
Okay, enough movie talk. What is the name of the podcast again, just so we can round that one off?
Low key. If you look up Low Key anywhere you look at podcasts, you'll find us. Myself, Tim Malloy, Keith Denny.
Awesome. I'm going to give that a listen because
please do.
It sounds real good. And sounds like you know what the fuck you're talking about. But what you do also know what the fuck you're talking about is with fighting games, because you've been in the community for a bit and you've got something in the works here that might be helpful to the community at large. So tell us about Adapt and what's going on there.
So the blurb I've written, like when I go to entrepreneur festivals and things like that, is Adapt is an esports community hub for all fighting games. The platform is used to run and organize tournaments, record statistics, and provide other missing links critical to infrastructure in the growing esports space. Okay, so I mean that gives you a sense of what it is, but like what the hell am I actually talking about? Mm-hmm. So in general, one thing that I realized I've been playing fighting games like since I was real young. Like my mom bought me a Sega Genesis when I was real young, and then Mortal Kombat came out, I think when I was 4, like 1991, 92, something like that. It should just beat my ass. It was ridiculous. I was so mad. Um, but so that was actually my start in fighting games. And just another quick story about fighting games to give you a sense of like how much I did enjoy them, despite I know what the hell I was doing. I had Marvel's Capcom 2 on Dreamcast in the summer of 2000. No VMU, so I can't save shit. And I don't know air combos, nothing. Like I'm just kind of just messing around with it. And eventually I started getting a feel for it. But that's not online play or nothing. I'm like playing by myself, learning how to beat the final boss without getting touched, stuff like that. And like just finding ways to challenge myself, not knowing that there's this world out there of incredible players just doing things that I wouldn't be able to comprehend. And as YouTube kind of comes around and you start seeing more stuff beyond forums of people saying, oh, there's this legendary thing happening here and there's this thing you've never seen before. When I got in college and I actually had, internet to myself and able to just kind of look stuff up in 2005, I finally met this group of people too locally. So I'm at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and it was a group there called Knox Fighters. And that's where I met some of the people who are now world-renowned Tekken players, for example, like Trungy. And those guys really helped just build that passion and that fight and that drive to want to get better, and to just watch other people just try all sorts of things. And those guys to this day still do those things. And across Tennessee, so I met Majin at the time and all kind of guys, and they showed me I wasn't as good as I thought I was at different games, which was a really good lesson to learn, right? And so
I feel like that's everyone's like first experience when they go play people for real after being like sheltered at your home in the age before there was online play, where it's like, I'm really good at beating like my close friends or like my brother or sister. And then you play people actually know what they're doing. And it's like, oh, I need to learn how to play fighting games, apparently.
Yeah, man. And this is a true story too. I remember one day I went on GGPO. This is like, I don't know, like 2008, 2009. And AC Slayer kicked my ass for like 2 hours straight. I think I got like 3 rounds. And he was like, yeah, I bet you beat the people you're around all the time. But, here's some of the things you're not considering. And here's how I'm able to, kind of anticipate what you're doing. And I was like, oh man, like this is some deep shit. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. It was just really interesting. I got more and more into. I started traveling to tournaments. I think the first major I went to was final round. And since then, I've had a chance to do all sorts of things. So just skipping ahead to like what this means for adapting, like what I realized. There's just a lot of things that we should have as a community that we don't have yet. One of the most basic ones is a mobile app. It's still weird to go to an event and see that pool runners have to yell out people's names.
Yeah, I mean, for super large events, I see that. For like smaller ones, I think it's doable because it's the feasibility of that. I understand, but go ahead.
No. So yeah, I'm not saying that as a slight to TOs or pool runners. What I'm saying is we should have had some infrastructure built by this point that would have allowed us to say, oh, boom, here's a notification, or here's a text alert, something, right?
Right. Yeah, like your phone, before your pools begin, you should get like an alert, right? That says your pools start in 5 minutes or some shit like that.
Right. And even at present, there are cases where some of the platforms we use now, when, like a pool changes or you get switched to another pool or the time changes, we don't get even an email notification. So you just get DQ'd and you don't even know what the hell happened.
That happens on Smash a lot because you are not notified whenever the people change pools, and that shit can happen like a day before the event begins, just because of how seating works, or if they have like on-site 100%. Registration, which like it's a fucking nightmare. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I think that, you're making the case for me. These are the sorts of things that I experienced as a player, and you would see frustrated players say, "Oh, why is this happening? Why is that happening?" And I really feel for the people who are organizing these events because, in some cases that stuff is unavoidable, but you do want to be able to communicate to your the people who are basically your clients what's happening. And especially like international players, like that's a really crummy thing to have happen if you can't easily tell what's going on.
Yeah.
So that was really the initial impetus. But when I graduated from college, my wife and I and another good friend of ours, we moved up to New York City, filled with wanting to do all these different dreams and stuff. And, we ended up doing all sorts of things. One of the things that I actually did was journalism. In particular, one of my focuses was within sports. And one thing you end up learning when you're working in that sector is for sports journalism, narrative, it's hard to really build narrative without data. So if I say to you, Aaron Rodgers had a great game, it's like, okay, well, how many yards did he throw? What's his completion percentage? Did he do something particular in a certain half? Or, did he come from behind? Is he winning multiple games in a row? Well, imagine we don't track any of that. Well, that'd be kind of weird, right? Like if I tell you he had a great game, like I can't contextualize that or to any other player or even say that he's in any way objectively better. Right. Even with a flawed stat, I can't really show that, right? If I'm not tracking any of it. But we use numbers to really help build perspective for not just the player in their moment, but also for other eras. Even as rules change, that's something we want to understand. And, you would see all these players do these amazing things and you realize for the FGC that it's lost in the history books. Yep. So one of the greatest accomplishments that I can think of off the top of my mind, and again, maybe this is true, maybe it's not, is Justin Wong not losing a tournament in Marvel 2 for, I think it was like almost 3 years.
Yeah, I think that tracks. He was like undefeatable.
Right. That's everyone's memory. He did not lose a set for 3 years, which is crazy, right? But it's like, did that happen? I think it did. But
that could be the lore. We don't know.
Right. Did anybody record that? And so that's the kind of thing I realized, damn, like we're just missing that. Because there'd be things that would happen. Like there was that moment where Punk in the second season of Street Fighter V was just like unbeatable. And I was just like, damn, like no one's keeping track of this. I don't know in Street Fighter V in particular if there's been a more dominant moment for anybody yet. We've had different people be at the top for short periods, Mental RD, right. Tokido at different periods. Daigo early on in the game, you could say Idom's probably considered the top dog now. But
I think it's also fair to say that Idom was good. He just didn't travel as much.
See, that's the other thing. So,
which we don't have stats for. We don't know. We can't quantify that.
Yeah. Can we quantify the level of competition? So like, let's say a dude in Montana is just kicking the shit out of everybody, but like it's Montana, which is not a diss to Montana, but it's like, if you have like a 90% win percentage in Montana, is that as good as having a 50% win rate in New York City? Well, I don't know. We're not tracking anything because we don't know how people do when they travel to events with people of a certain caliber of skill. Right. So these are the sorts of things that are missing. And within Adapt, within our infrastructure and our schema and our database, we'll be able to show that, for any player who wants to see how they do player versus player, player versus country, player versus a certain region, all kinds of stuff. So that's the sort of breakdown we want to provide and what we feel like we'll be able to really help people who are covering the FGC in particular, provide some context and really gravitate people to these stories that we really hold dear, but that other people can't really contextualize. It's like, well, this guy's really good. But it's like, well, based on what?
Right. Yeah, like you could just generally say that. You might have been able to, the way that the FGC is, you might have played that person in the past and have that to be like, okay, he whooped my ass, so I can say he's good because I know I'm the greatest. It's like based on ego and shit like that. But you're right. There is no one place where players can go to be able to keep track of all that stuff, especially when there are so many locals happening across the nation and the world in general that it's just kind of lost to. It's funny that you brought up things that are lost to time, like information and matches and sets that are lost to time. I think in the Street Fighter world, the best example of that would be the Evo Moment 37, the Daigo parry, because his match like right before that, he had done the exact same thing to Ricky Ortiz, but it wasn't on film.
Yo, I didn't know that.
It wasn't on film, and it wasn't for the win. So but he did the exact same thing, like a raw activation of the super in the neutral, parried the whole thing, even with the jump punish. I know. Now, the other thing that's lost the time on that is that Daigo didn't win that tournament. Like that's
which is
it's just like the other added fun bit to that. But like again, it's just, I don't know. Like we all look at that as like MJ shooting the jump shot with 0 seconds on the clock to win the championship, right? It's
right.
But it's actually not that at all, and we don't have the numbers or data to actually look at it that way. And no one was keeping track of it, or like the people who we were like, you can look up on like Wikipedia and see that he didn't win, but like it wasn't all there. There's no lifetime stats for all of these players across all of these games, which like is the other tough thing to do, because the games themselves change over time, and not like sports where like, baseball has changed, but like it's not like baseball 2. It's just the rules are different.
100%. And I think you're saying something that I think a lot of sports journalists do a really poor job of actually contextualizing. Like I used to, write like about the NBA, for example, and people would talk about how the Golden State Warriors have the most beautiful game now. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, like, oh, well, anybody could do this. So like the Houston Rockets, like, if the coaches had just been smart enough to spread the floor. And I'm like, guys, you know why, they couldn't do that? If James Harden had tried that in the 80s, they would have beat his ass when he got into the paint. That's why you can't do that. It's not that it doesn't work and guys weren't smart. It's just you'd have to have a player really be able to take the kind of physical beating all the time. Right. And that's just not reasonable. Now, the Bulls, for example, did do that stuff in the early 90s, but they didn't do it very frequently, and they didn't do it against certain opponents. And you also had to have players of a high enough skill level to even pull that off with that amount of shooting skill. And I feel like that actually happens oftentimes too when we talk about the FGC. It's like players will have ups and downs, but oftentimes those ups and downs kind of deal with the nerfs and buffs that happen with a character. And so one thing we were definitely thinking about was how you can have overall stats, but they also need to be stratified in such a way that we can view them by season, because those things do matter.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Change. Yeah.
Yep. That's like, I feel like we're almost going to have a similar argument of like, who was better, LeBron or Michael Jordan? And then like put on our best Stephen A. Smith impressions. Now, I love LeBron.
LeBron's a good man.
He's a good man. I love him. You cannot deny he's a great player. One of the greatest of all time. But he is not the greatest of all time.
And the funny thing is, I think the biggest difference between, this is going to sound like I'm not making an FGC analogy, but I totally am.
Daigo may have made that parry, but he is not the greatest of all time.
But you know what's really funny? Like if you go back and look at the Marvel era, like Marvel 3 era,
right?
Similar to the whole Jordan thing, like I think LeBron is definitely one of the best players of all time, but he had something that Jordan had, which is he could intimidate opponents by just simply being present. Like that Wong factor thing. Justin Wong won so many matches because somebody would just drop something when they were about to do something real cool to clutch it out.
Yep.
But they just, oh shit, it's Justin. And they would just drop it. Like, and it was amazing to watch. It's like, you can't quantify that in any way, but it was happening all the damn time.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway.
No, that is actually a better analogy is the MVC3 era of if we had overall stats for across all of these years for all of these players. There was no double victory at Evo, so we cannot say who leads it just based on Evo wins.
Right.
But what if we looked at like all the other data and who could be considered the best of all time? That's still up in the air. That's an argument to be made for having a service like this, of being able to track these stats of like player versus player and all that stuff would be super useful.
Yeah, I mean, we really feel like there are just a ton of applications, things that we have not even considered. One of the most basic ones, though, is just tournament seeding. We don't have a solid way to do that. And so,
which is fucked up, to be clear. Like, yes. All tournament seeding is hella fucked up from like a regional perspective, like a general seeding perspective of player points. Like, even in the Capcom Pro Tour, where they have points, things were not seeded appropriately or the same across all events, and it's fucking wild.
Well, I mean, and again, but see, when it comes to that, that's about points. Now, that I guess you can't really do anything about that, because it's about who you actually have to do more. And I thought Capcom did an amazing job of spreading out the events more globally.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we have the Rona going on, so we're not going to get to see, the implementation of that really thoughtful work they did. And I really hope that not just Capcom, but other publishers who were putting in the work to provide that sort of infrastructure around their games and that support, that continues, because it was massively important. And I thought this was going to be like a year to really push things to the next level. Having said that, though, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just kind of like an aside there, I think that this season can still be salvaged in a way that if things start lifting up by, after things really probably not going to get good by May. We're probably not going to be out of this by the end of May, right?
No, doubtful.
No, all right. If things start clearing up by the end of May, then I can see them implementing their ideas for what they were going to plan for the latter half of the year, which is like your World Warrior challenges based on like more specifically regional events, which would have been a good idea and can still work if there's like, I don't know. We'll see. Take care of you. But like, I'm not like saying people go out and play the games just to get like fucking stay safe, stay inside, and do not spread this virus. Like, I'm not advocating that whatsoever. It's just maybe I'm hopeful that, maybe things will, I don't know.
We need optimism. We need optimism. I think we don't want to fool ourselves about the reality. There's a lot more testing globally that needs to take place before that sort of thing is considered safe, especially when you're talking about people coming beyond borders and going to another place. You really want to be as thoughtful about that as possible, which is why, although I was very annoyed about what happened with the Mortal Kombat finals in Chicago, I understood it. I hated that they waited so long and people were already traveling there and all that, but it was the responsible decision, even though it really, really sucked. But
it's bad timing,
but I mean, I think we have to just think about what we're gonna do once we're able to collectively come out of this moment. And it might not be super quick, unfortunately, but a commitment to what we want to do next, I think, is whenever that moment is, whether it's in the summer or it's in, the start of next year, whatever that happens to be, we really want to just make sure that we're, committing to a certain vision and doing what we can to set ourselves up for the best outcome.
You're right. Now is the time to start, for whatever reason, I've seen a lot of people start thinking about infrastructure in terms of like player connectivity, region connectivity, and just because we're forced to right now, because everyone is forced online, which leads to the very funny joke where like I remember old heads always saying the line of online FGC, that's not FGC, that's only online. And then pandemic strikes the world.
And then
we're all online. It's all the same. Don't worry about it.
Well, isn't it kind of funny? It just so happens that this is right around the time Capcom was making all those netcode changes, and some of I don't know. Like, I had a better experience with the first change than the second one. It's still better than it was before.
it's better, but it's not without its faults. And hopefully they continue to work on it and continue to work on it until the 2021 Olympics now, as they've changed the date on that.
It is crazy. I forgot all about that.
Yeah. That's wild to think. But I mean,
it is wild. Yeah.
It's worthwhile though. I mean, you can't. Just for public safety, it's just a requirement. Even though most of the events were going to be online, I get it.
So may I actually question related to the online move? So as far as the weeklies that have been happening for the East and West Coast, like, have you seen an uptick in just interest overall, like whether it's in viewership or entrance?
Yes, absolutely. Just because people are still hungry to play, right. And they're just forced into online spaces. And there's some people who actually had their locals on Monday nights that they can't attend anymore. So because our tournaments are on Mondays and Friday, but like days where people would be doing something with their local, they're now, we have had this around for a while, so it makes sense for people to transition to an online tournament sense. So yeah, our numbers have been bigger, but not significantly bigger. I don't know if it's like our tournament just being, there's a lot of reasons why people wouldn't be, or like are afraid to, not like afraid to enter, but like weary about entering, mostly because like it could be a huge time commitment. They might not think that they're good enough, or think that online tournaments are below them, and it's
not look. I'll raise my hand for the first one, not the third one.
Exactly. It's who knows about the reasons for or not. I mean, and it's still, some people just don't like online play. Like it is quantifiably different from local play.
So different. It's so different. But you have to be. I think there's just a mindset that's a little bit different. You have to almost have like a certain brain that's like, here's a scenario, here are the different options that'll happen given this scenario. I'm going to commit to the two most likely options, and then go from there. That's what I feel like happens online most of the time. Like Rushdown makes me laugh all the time when I'm watching him play, just because he'll be like, there was some, I don't remember who he's playing against, but it was that Cammy. It was just like, what the hell is happening? And because it was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just press this button. Like, look, it might not work. I might die. Who cares? I'm just gonna press this shit. But it was an optimal option, right? If the person was concerned about losing and getting scared, and that's exactly what was happening. It was pretty incredible. So I was like, yeah, man, you know what? Ride or die, like however's gonna happen. Like I'm gonna just try it. I'm gonna get my ass whooped, but like I'm gonna just do it because that just looked fun. Like I was like, all right, that's pretty hilarious.
There are, specifically concerning Rushdown, he's one of my favorite players to watch, because he does the thing that I always notice as a commentator, but then plays to his opponent. Because there's a lot of ways that you can tell as a commentator where the other person is not adapting, or the other person is not like paying attention to certain things, and is not playing against the player. They're playing, they're like trying to play against the character.
Or they're just doing what they feel like is comfortable, and they won't stop doing that thing.
Right. He will notice that almost immediately, and then he has the ability to play to it in a way that is entertaining or silly or just dumb. And there's a lot of that missing from Street Fighter V in particular, because it's not a game that it's not a game that lets you fuck up like often. Like he could, like with something in the neutral, and that could lead to a crush counter, and then like his death after one or two guesses, and it's like, well, okay, maybe, and then he'll just have to take that loss. Even if he's like outplaying the person, or if he or she is outplaying a person, then it's like, it could go wrong. But specifically in Rushdown's case, it's like he's able to adapt in a way that is entertaining to watch, and it makes it fun.
Yes.
I don't think we're going to get into. I don't think there's enough time to get into the whole Rob TV versus Rushdown money match.
Look, I didn't. I really, you know, what was disappointing for me. Like, and this is part of what I hope Adapt can do. Like, when exhibitions and things like that, like we want to try to capture some of that stuff. It's not our main goal. We're trying to do events, but like if people are just doing something fun and goofy and money match, and they just want to be, hey, we're gonna do this thing, and they want to like tell the people who follow their profile, hey, don't forget, we're gonna do this thing, get a notification when we play, and here's where you go watch it. That'd just be funny. Like I wanted to watch the VOD. I need to find it, but I mean, you know what's? I met Rob forever ago at KIT. He was such an asshole, and like he's a much better player now. But I remember watching him, and I'm like, man, this dude is, he's all right. But that's just who he is. No, I'm not saying that. He's somebody who has fun by being what most people would consider abrasive, right? He's not gonna hold his tongue. He just talks a lot of shit, and that's how he has fun with the game. And that's not for everybody, right? Like I'm like that with people I know, but not just like in general. So you know, I get it. Like he's just shit talking. He's having fun. And you know, he's not a bad dude by any means. He talks a lot of shit.
No, like. Disclosure for myself, I love both of these guys. Like they're both great. Rushdown and Robert Television are they're fantastic people, and them having this feud
he has improved over the years so much. Like there's no doubt. You cannot deny that dude's skill, man. Like he is legit. And gave Idom a run for his money yesterday in LBC weekly. So I mean props to him, man. He's an incredible player.
It's just like fun stuff like that, you know, like both of them having fun with the game, trash talking a little bit. And if for those of you who don't know, haven't followed, those two had, I don't know, like, could you call it a feud? Like let's just call it a feud.
Sure.
And they played on Rompopoyo's stream. And I believe Rompopoyo has the VODs up somewhere. I'll try and find it and link it in the show notes.
Please do if you can, because I desperately want to watch that whole thing.
Think about that. Then they ran a first 5 money match. Rob wins in a 5-1 set. Then comes on the mic hot. And
super hot.
Comes in super hot.
Like and, talking, like it was amazing.
Just like lays it on thick, and it's hilarious. And knowing both of those guys, it's fun. And now I'm thinking, as like a evil general manager, now I have to, like Paul Bear style, carry around Rushdown's urn before like SummerSlam. A light will shine from the urn, and Rushdown will appear and slay whoever is the. We're working on the storyline. We're, you know.
What's so funny is all the back and forth about how the fact it's online and I beat you online anyway, and then it's like, oh, but so you bragging about the online, but we online. I mean, it's the whole thing. I love the contradiction of it, because that's so the point. It's just, you know, you're just having fun with folks that you kick it with, and it's whatever, and there's no beef. It's not serious. Like I mean, I feel like we have lost some of that. Being able to just kind of, you know, say things without it always being taken to the next level. People feel like, oh, there's got to be like a ban or some weird shit across it. Now, some of the stuff that recently happened, we even get into that, I don't think, but you know, that merited it. But
I'm not gonna touch on any of that stuff right now, because it's
nope. That's
even for me, all of just looking at that, being like, you guys everyone involved is fucking stupid, and this is the worst. Like
it's really silly. But I actually put out a tweet, and you know, I'm not the biggest personality by any means. No one really pays attention to what I say, but you know, I do think that, you know, first off, I don't envy any of the decisions that TOs have to make on stuff like this, because it's very difficult to manage. But I will say that it needs to be made clear to people that if you're doing these sorts of things at tournaments, not berating people the way we saw there, but if it's just talking about using certain words, people do that in the heat of the moment at these tournaments, at these events all the time. So let's just be really clear about like what the rules are here.
Right.
And I hope that is just, we just have clear guidelines so that people aren't
I
feeling like there's favoritism,
I think that is key. Specifically, there's an episode of this show talking to the Icy Glaceon where she recommends, and I fully agree with this, having extremely clear-cut code of conduct for their tournament, which is just, it's lengthy. It's a big code of conduct. It has a lot of rules to it, but having that, big document there is useful in situations where, like this, where there's a line to be drawn between like being continually hateful versus just hating someone's play. It's
because that's real. That is real.
It's real, man. But like, I don't know who bitch this is, honestly. Like,
to be salty, you have to give that, right? There's always a line, but I do think that these are things that are going to happen that needed to happen anyway. This isn't how you want it to come up,
right?
But I think we have a lot of people who are very smart who are going to figure this out. Now, one thing I did want to bring up too, it's really funny about Adapt related to online play. We were not going to do any online tournaments. One of the reasons, was I mean, of course, like Rona, it's making everybody make pivots, right? Right. But the main reason was, it was like, all right, like, will people feel like these results are valid? So that was the first issue.
Yeah.
Second issue was, how do you actually, and probably, off the mic, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about how to handle this, because I think it's a more detailed conversation, but how do you actually capture each round? Because what our goal is to capture every single round. There are ways that we figured out how to do it that makes sense for offline. For online, you can already see some complications there, specifically if you're like adding additional people to a lobby, and that could potentially impact the connections as well. So there are things we've been trying to think through about how to make that work. And so I'd be really open to anybody who's listened so far. If you have any ideas on this, please reach out, whether it's on my Twitter, Lanton11, or at Aaron@adopt.gg. We're really trying to find ways to figure this out, and make sure that we're satisfying community needs. That's the main thing. Like, it's every community has different things they need within the fighting game genre, and so we just want to make sure that we're not doing things that works for one area but not another.
Right. No, that's something to think about. I don't know if I have an answer for you.
Well, and again, look, we're not looking for perfect answers. We're just trying stuff at this point. I mean, we're about to be at a point in a couple of months, because there are 3 people who on the team who are all co-owners for Adapt. We all work full-time jobs. So now if we were just only working on this, it would have been out quite a while ago, but especially with the Rona happening now, we were like, we'll have something that people can mess around with by combo breaker. But again, with this going on, it's kind of pushed that deadline back a little bit. But we feel pretty comfortable that we'll be able to put something in people's hands, in the near future, some months from now. And, again, the goal was initially to just test things locally within the state. I know a lot of the people who run all the events in each city within Tennessee, and that would have been a very easy draw for us to have those people participate. But it's probably going to have to be a wider net that we're casting, given the current global situation that's happening right now. And also, if anybody has any ideas for how or where we can find schedules for what people are doing. I've been able to put together a decent amount of stuff, but none of it's centralized. And so that's what we're actually trying to provide, that centralized place. And we're doing a lot of that for calendars and things right now. Wherever you are globally, we're trying to do that.
In terms of global online calendars, Gil Stole My Ride has a really good calendar to work off of, as well as I wonder if Top Tier GG has been people have been editing in their weeklies as online events. That might also be a good place to look.
Oh yeah, they've done an amazing job. I don't know if they've had a chance, and actually I should reach out to Choice Sauce and ask them how they've done recently, because we've been in communication before. I actually haven't reached out to them since this most recent situation happened with the Rona, but I definitely will reach out and ask them, hey, how's, have you had any updates, and just how they're tracking those things going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because we definitely want to collaborate with people who are trying to do new things. I really do love how, Top Tier has gone out of their way to really highlight community and just give different perspectives for people on how they should approach fighting games and things like that. It's really going to be important to have other news outlets that can do things for us like that going forward.
Definitely. You spoke about Nashville's local scene a little bit. I know we didn't necessarily plan on talking about this, but kind of before things got hit hard, can you tell us about the local scene there? Like what's good? What's good in Nashville?
So what's crazy? Like we have two different locals. There are some that happen at an arcade called Game Galaxy, which is owned by Jason Wilson. He's an OG Street Fighter player from way back when. He plays all kinds of games, but he is just really dominant figure. I know he started playing games on the West Coast out in Cali first, and he owns one of the largest libraries of video games in the whole world, which is it's pretty fantastic. And then we have another set of locals that occur. It was called the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. So it's a group of guys who have put together a couple of organizations in collaboration with state officials who are helping bring entrepreneurship to the state. And they've used the National Entrepreneur Center as an area to really hold the locals and bring more people in. So right now they're averaging about 70 some odd people every week, which is insane.
Yeah.
And, we have a lot of different players in different games who are leveling up and doing all kinds of things. And of course, the biggest scene is Smash. Like they are consistent and awesome. I love seeing those guys come out. And also the production crew, the Four Horsemen, they've been getting more things. And of course, Ian, who runs KIT, he's present here and has been making a lot of things happen, nationwide. And, I'm sure he's going to, start hitting that global level soon. He's really been kicking ass and taking names lately. So definitely shout out to those guys. Yeah,
KIT's been great for a long time now. No, that's awesome. All right. In that case, though, trying to look at time and thinking about where to take this conversation, because you're planning on getting the app up soon-ish.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hate to give like an exact date because things kind of, like I said, Combo Breaker was like, oh, that's a good time, but it's definitely going to be beyond that at this point.
That's fair. I don't want to pressure you. Don't want to pressure you into saying something like that.
We will definitely, be pushing to get something out as soon as possible into people's hands, because it's very much needed, even more now than ever. And I'm just really pumped to be able to talk in complete detail about everything it can do. But if you mind, for 1 minute, I'll tell a really quick story that I think will provide some context about the sort of things you can learn from it.
Please do. Please do.
So when MENA RD won Capcom Cup in 2017, I remember there was this conversation going around about, it was fluky, Birdie was broken, like all this stuff, right? How can somebody from Dominican Republic do this? So on and so forth, right? Mm-hmm. When you really dig into the numbers, it actually is way more impressive than everybody realized. So one of the things that we did as far as test data to look at stuff was manually record every single round that happened. That shit took a long time. We did it for multiple tournaments. But one of the things that really came out of that, and I don't know why I didn't think to do this earlier, but I'm going to quickly share my screen so you can see this as I'm taking a look. All right, here we go. So just let me know you can see the screen.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, so right here, just a quick set of percentages for his round win percentage, match win percentage, and set win percentage. So you see overall they're decently high. So 60%, 61% win rate, 68% match rate, 87.5% set win rate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you actually look at the opponents he played, it's kind of ridiculous. He played Shan, Kazunoko, Daigo, Itabachi, Zangief, Tokido, Nemo. And you see this is broken down here in a player split. You can see how he did against everybody by round, game. Well, I should say round, match, set. We changed the terminology later. And you can see by character split. Of course, it's the same. But the thing that's really hilarious when you look at it, look how much damage he did on. He only played against Japan and Singapore. Of course, it's Shan being from Singapore. And he's really dominant against both countries. And when you actually compare how every country did against everyone else, they're kicking everyone's ass. When you see MENA RD, he's beating them down pretty bad.
Yeah, that's interesting. Huh.
And if you notice, the other thing that's super interesting too, is he has a 46% win rate against Shan. Now the thing that's funny about that means, of course, he lost more rounds against Shan than he won, but he won the matches and the set overall. In other words, what kept happening with Shan, if you look at it too, his round win percentages are higher than the people who have placings above him. So I think he got like 13th or something like that. But the thing about him is when you beat him, it always went to the 5th round of a game, and it always went to the 5th match of a set.
I see.
Right. And so his percentages are super high. But when he beats you, he just destroyed you. He was like 6-0 people. So it was actually really interesting. There's a lot of things you can learn from this data, and that's the kind of stuff that we really want people to be able to see is like his competition was incredibly tough, but when he played them, he kicked their ass. Shan did. And MENA RD, the only person he actually struggled to get against was Shan. He actually dominated Tokido, and the rounds bear that out when you look at it.
Yeah, no, that was a clean set. Tokido was not ready for MENA's birdie at that stage of the game, honestly.
Not at all. It was incredible to really learn, and you know the numbers bear that out when you're actually recording every single round. You can see exactly how that looks. And there's a lot of other things that are really interesting, like Punk would get up like 2-0 against people and then constantly go to like the 5th match. It was really weird. So we get up 2-0 in matches and then it always go down to the 5th match. I was like, damn, what the hell is that happening? And it seemed like it was that period where he was, I guess, I don't know, like, that was the same year that he didn't win Evo.
Yeah, that was the big choke year. Not to call it a big choke. I didn't
use that. I didn't use that word, but it looked like it. Like, and it did impact, a lot of the tournaments that he played in after that. It really did seem like it, because at that point, Karen hadn't been changed again yet. That patch hadn't come out until later, and then she was nerfed in season 3, but. And then he had like a character identity crisis. It seemed like he was picking some of everybody. But anyway, that's large conversation. We'd be talking about that forever. But that's just an example of the kind of stuff you can learn when you actually have this data in front of you.
No, that's cool to see things broken out round by round and win percentages and shit like that. That's, like you said, when you have the data there, it's useful to tell storylines. So MENA going up against a high win percent, like technically having a low chance of winning and then still rolling on Capcom Cup was kind of a big deal, honestly.
Well, if you're doing gambling odds though, and you have this data,
oh my god, could you imagine how much someone would have won?
But his thing, the community didn't believe him in RD, but the thing was like he was, the data before that showed he should have won. He actually was kicking the hell out of Daigo all the time. Yeah. Like, actually, last year in Combo Breaker 2, he beat Daigo real bad. Actually, what's fun? In Combo Breaker, I didn't even get to record all these like round by round because a lot of these were offline, but I was present, and I just so happened to be like around watching the matches offset. And I have a tweet explaining who all he beat, but he played the 5 gods of Street Fighter. So he played, I'm not gonna remember everybody right now. Bonchan, Daigo, Kazunoko, Mago, and is it Nemo? Shoot, who's the 5th one? Anyway, whoever it was, he played all 5 of them and beat 4 of them. and didn't get top 8. It was incredible. I was like, dude, that's insane. Like, what is up with this seeding? Like, that's stupid. Which, and again, that's not to diss them. They don't have the data in the software that's helping them make, decisions that make sense. And again, maybe he does that anyway because the brackets are so condensed and there's so much competition. I mean, they got some of the best players in the world going to that tournament. Right. But it's like, he should have been recognized for kicking the ass of 4 out of 5 guys. Like, that's incredible. At least, like, all right, you didn't get top 8, but look who you played against. So, like, imagine your sponsor looks at, oh, you didn't get top 8. It's like, look who the hell I beat. Like, that's ridiculous. And they did back to back to back to back. Like, it was crazy.
Look at the names that were taken out that year by MENA. And
yeah, and meanwhile, somebody else gets top 8 and they play like, 2 people at that level. I mean, like, that matters, right? We should be looking at that stuff in context that sort of data really does tell a better story about what actually happened.
Yeah, because, I mean, you always hear anecdotally people having easy runs out of pools versus having a difficult run out of pools, which, like, but it's a real thing that you can actually put numbers to and values to. Interesting that you're constructing something that can tell storylines like that. I'm looking forward to it whenever it is up and running.
Yeah, we're not gonna take forever. It's coming, but like I said, we're gonna do it right. We're not gonna rush it. We don't want to skip steps and then the product just be trash and all that. So when you get it, it's gonna work. And if there are things that don't work, let us know, man. We're gonna work on it. We're really committed to this.
I dig it. All right. Well, I think that will just about do us for time. So unless there's anything else that you want to pitch before we shut the lights off here.
Okay. So I have a question for you.
Oh, actually. Okay.
I mean, and it's something I've thought about a little bit, and I have an answer, even though it's I guess there's recency bias with it. But who do you think is the best fighting game player of all time?
Ooh, man. That of all time.
It's a hard question. Yeah,
it is a hard question.
Yeah, because so I mean, you could look at it, and I don't mean like for a specific game, but like whether you're talking about like a certain era or across all time period, like in different games, like I mean, are they playing like NRS games and Capcom stuff and Namco?
That's like the good question, right? Of if we're grouping all games together, and like NRS, do you say like? Am I gonna say Sonic Fox?
Yeah, or man. I think that's the dude probably.
Or am I gonna say Justin Wong? Maybe.
It's so I don't
depending
know.
on the era.
I think it's a great question. It's a fun question. I think it's something we would have a better answer to if we had data against it, which is one of the reasons I'm like, oh yeah, like here's one way we could look at that problem, right? But I do think, I mean, Sonic has been the best at like 8 or 9 damn games over a decade. Like, it's kind of insane,
right?
And so it's Justin though, right? But
yeah,
his plethora of games is not as wide as Sonic Fox. Like, we're talking Dead or Alive, NRS games, Marvel games, Dragon Ball.
That's true. Are we also looking at all the competition for those games though?
Right. See, that's a good point. It's a great point, actually. See, I don't know. I mean, if you keep that in mind, I don't know the competition for all those games as well as I do the Capcom games. Like, I have a sense of it, but not incredibly in depth. Like, because there are players who've been playing some games like CVS2, like they just, what was it? Is it Bass that like comes from Japan, just comes to tournaments, just takes American money all the time?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just no one can touch him. But in Japan, it's not like he wins all the time. Which is what's so goofy about it.
Yeah, like, and then how do you quantify that over like across all of the years, and then say this person is the best of all time? I think expanding it to all fighting games makes that question near impossible to answer.
Yep, I think so, probably.
Man, because there's just, I can think of a lot of good players. I can think of a lot of really dominant players per game. But can I group that all together and quantifiably say one over the other? But I don't know. Team America, Justin Wong's the best. Justin Wong's the best. Fuck everybody else. Justin Wong.
But look, isn't it cool that somebody like Arslan Ash comes out last year and you're like, shit, like, have we even been looking at the whole world yet?
Yeah, and just fucking dominated and
Destroyed people and like and then Pakistan gets studied so hard that they don't even get to like the top 8 in the world fight. Like, God, like that's it's like, I don't know. I ain't gonna lie. Pakistan was feeling themselves, and they should. They were dominating people. It was wild. And then everybody was like, "Nah, dog. Nah, we gonna take that."
Actually, check the shit out.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's the kind of thing we want to be able to do. We want to be able to not have Reddit Kappa just find a Pepe Day out of nowhere because they just happen to see a couple of online matches on YouTube. We want like to be able to find those guys in Paraguay or Bolivia or whatever the hell they happen to be, right? And give those guys a chance to shine and have the world recognize them and say, hey, you know what? Maybe even sponsors go, I don't know who this kid is, but look at his win percentage. Let's see if he can do something. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of stuff we want to be able to do.
No, that's cool. That's a thought-provoking question, and I appreciate that you're trying to find the answer to that. But with that will do it for an episode, but I cannot let you go until you answer this line of questioning. I ask everyone, it's the same question first time they're on the show. And I think that it can tell a lot about your person and kind of how you think as a player by how you answer it. It comes in 2 parts. First part of the question is, what is your favorite normal attack in any fighting game and why?
All right, now I had to. You gave this question ahead of time. Thank goodness, because you give your guests like a little dossier of what you'll talk about.
Yeah.
This and the next question, I literally spent way more time on these than anything else. I was like, shit, I don't know. And I ended up going with for the favorite normal attack, Cable Stand H in Marvel 2 because it's so silly. It's like I can't imagine being a dev and be like, all right, well, let's give him a gun. It's just one button. And then like, all right, no, it's not good enough. Be able to fire 4 times. Nah, it's still not good enough. I need to be able to cancel into a projectile. You know what? It's still not good. I need to be able to cancel that into special and the super. And then I need to be able to like keep canceling that until I don't have meter anymore. Yeah, that's it. That feels right.
Yep, we just need to work that into loop, and all right, and we're good.
Yeah, now we got it. That feels right now. Yeah, that normally is so stupid. I mean, I have so many possibilities, and even like Guilty Gear Strive, that crouch, I think it was his crouch slash with Faust. That move looks so insane when he like molts out of his own ass. Like it's so weird.
Dude, I do love Faust. I'm a big fan of Faust. I do like Potemkin. Guilty Gear is so fucking beautiful. I love it.
Have you seen the one-touch kill on Chip with Potemkin?
Oh yeah, because it's just like that's what everybody goes to because
it's so beautiful.
It's Potemkin versus Chip is one of the all-time greatest speed characters versus dummy thick characters. It's a classic. Every because each other person hates the matchup. Like both times are like, I fucking hate getting mixed up, and Chips are like, I fucking hate dying in one hit. It's
so fun. I mean, I'm not great at Guilty Gear by enemies. I'm pretty noobish at that game. Like it's the one I probably spent the least amount of time on, but I love watching it and I love messing around on it. And then he took out the Gatling system. That shit was weird. I didn't know what was happening. But that's an interesting game coming up though.
That's a bit contentious with people right now of how they are enjoying the game. I personally find that style, I don't know, it's different. I like that they're taking a chance. That could be cool. Yeah. I think it's just so fucking gorgeous. I think the new Faust look is new Faust looks so fucking good. Like I can't deny that their animators are just on another level. Like I can't.
When I was a child, I imagined games might look like this. I was like, nah, that's like having a flying car. That's not happening.
My hot take on the whole thing is that I actually love the dumb UI. I think it looking big and dumb is so fucking appropriate. I'm just like, yeah, man, make it dumb.
Now, I couldn't challenge anybody, which sucked. I could not figure that out. But I'm fine with the idea of the live system, and I wish you could choose which floor you on after you access the floor. But
yeah, I mean, this is all beta stuff that like I imagine will get hashed out, or if people are actually voicing their concerns in like the write-in thing that people were supposed to do instead of just voicing it on Twitter. Would be,
how many will do that?
I mean, if they're going to ask for feedback, I hope that people use the correct channels for that, and then they.
I gave it, but
we'll I'm just observations, but
100%.
Part 2 of the question. What is your favorite combo in any fighting game and why?
So I also took a long time to think about this, and I just could not get an answer. I mean, I could think of like a lot of moments that like got me hype as hell. But I was like, all right, what, like, I was like, at least like right now. And it's just like, I'll be watching Problem X play with Bison in V-Trigger 2. And he just does shit. The way I wrote it out, actually, when you provide that doc, I said, there's so much creativity that I never know what's coming, like a good hip hop flow. Mm-hmm. Like, he just does stuff. I'm just like, nah. I'm like, oh, we've hit the limits of what's possible here. And he just does some. I was like, what? How? Why? Like, did you just? It just feels like, it's like watching Rushdown play, but like S tier version of just trolling. It's the funniest shit that you'll ever see. And I just really enjoy watching him play. In his stream, he does just give a lot of good advice to people, and seems to, and in person, he's a really humble guy. Like, I love him.
Yeah, no, he's great. Absolutely. And I think that the way that you've put it, of it being having a good flow, is interesting, because I think that's just about correct, because that particular V-Trigger just gives him many options. It gives him a lot more variants of his move. He gets the Psycho Crusher, he gets the Command Grab, he gets the Explosion. It's a whole, each one can play off the other, and
it's aspirational is what it is for me. Like, I look at it like, damn, I want to do that. So, Geef and Bison are who I use more than anybody. And I really want to, I just want to take time to really hone in and get my ass with a few times on the stream coming up here on Monday.
I do love a good Zangief, absolutely.
Oh, that's so funny. So a close second though to that is anything Geese does in any game.
That's fair. He
just talks shit to you the whole time while he's whooping your ass. It is so funny. So I had to also mention Geese, because his character design it just cracks me up all the time. It's like predictable. Like, I love it, man. He's so great.
No, that's good. Those are good answers. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your time in joining us this week to talk about...
Thank you very much for having me, man. Like, I really appreciate, you giving, Adapt a chance to just talk about what we're doing. And, as we move forward, I definitely, would, like to reach out and talk more about like what we actually implemented, what's ready. And of course, I'm always listening to the pod and watching the stream. So, you'll see me up there, his hands and face coming up, getting my ass whooped. So we'll see how it goes.
Be happy to give feedback once it's available. But one more time, where can people find you and Adapt on the internet?
So currently, Adapt does not have any channels on its own. We'll be creating those. But if you're trying to reach out to Adapt to give us any feedback, please reach out to my Twitter at Lanton11. So that's ALANTON 11. And also by email, I can be reached at aaron@adapt.gg.
All right, folks. Once again, I am Joe Monday. You can find me at Super Joe Monday or at Reddit SF on Twitter.com, or just hop on our Street Fighter, post whatever, and I will definitely see it. And post your stuff there, promote your stuff there. Please do.
100%. We will.
It's a fantastic tool for you and for everybody. But that is a show. Catch us most every Thursday-ish now. Things, again, scheduling things is weird with the current times that we live in under quarantine.
Don't we know it? Everybody's feeling that right now.
What day is it, man? Yeah, one day at a time, just one quarantine day at a time. Yeah. But that will do it. Don't forget about the tournaments on Mondays and Fridays. Mondays on the East Coast, Fridays on the West Coast. But until next time, folks, take care. Peace.
that thing.